Barcelona's 11 worst signings of the 21st century. As one of the finest teams in the world. However, not all of the signings have been a success, evidenced recently by the dismal spell Philippe Coutinho has endured at the club. Expectations at Camp Nou are always high, but some have never looked capable of getting to grips with things from the moment they arrive. Emmanuel Petit. Emmanuel Petit spent 3 impressive years with Arsenal, so it was no surprise to see him make a £7 million switch to Barcelona in 2000. However, what happened next certainly was surprising. Manager Lorenzo Serra Ferrer seemingly felt that the midfielder was actually better suited to play in defense, which was just painfully wrong. Understandably, Petit looked out of his depth at the back, and a string of debilitating injuries only made things worse. He was quickly shipped off to Chelsea after just 1 season, allowing everyone to move on from this nightmare as quickly as possible. Philippe Cristanval. During his time with Monaco, young centre-back Philippe Cristanval played like one of the most exciting youngsters around. Barcelona liked what they saw, and struck a £6.5 million deal to sign him in 2001. On the flight over, it seemed like Cristanval lost his consistency, and he looked nothing like the promising youngster who had broken through at Monaco. He looked awkward on the ball, found himself out of position far too often. He was released just 2 years later, before failing a trial with Arsenal in 2005. A move to Fulham followed, but life wasn't much better for him there, and he retired in 2009 after failing to find a new club. Alexander Hleb. Alexander Hleb, Ras van Rat. What is it about Arsenal players that just doesn't work for Barcelona? The next unlucky man was Alexander Hleb, who sealed a €17 million move to the club in 2008. With a €90 million buyout clause in his contract, Barcelona expected big things of Hleb. The winger simply couldn't get into the team, and was bitterly disappointing on the rare occasions that he did. He was part of the treble-winning season, but could have hardly played a smaller role if he tried. He began openly flirting with Bayern Munich, before being loaned out to Stuttgart, Birmingham City and Wolfsburg. When none of them wanted him permanently, Barcelona decided to cancel his contract in 2012. Dmytro Chigrinsky. Barcelona Ukrainian defender. Poor Dmytro Chigrinsky. Barcelona tried so very hard to sign him from Shakhtar Donetsk back in 2009, and it took weeks of failed bids and intense negotiations to convince the Ukrainian side to sell him for €25 million. But then things went wrong. Really wrong. Brought in for his supposed aerial prowess and ball-playing skills, Chigrinsky never looked good enough to play for Pep Guardiola's Barcelona, and the club decided to cut ties with him after just 1 season. Guardiola actually wanted to keep him, but the club's dire financial situation at the time saw Barcelona sell Chigrinsky back to Shakhtar for just €15 million.
Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Barcelona Swedish forward Zlatan Ibra. In 2009, Barcelona gave up everything to sign Zlatan Ibrahimovic. They paid Inter Milan €47 million, on top of giving him Samuel Eto'o, so it's safe to see that they were all in on the nomadic Swede. Almost instantly, Ibrahimovic looked like an awkward fit in Guardiola's side. He wasn't mobile enough, and the emergence of Lionel Messi as a central striker saw Ibrahimovic regularly dropped from the team, which didn't sit well with him. A memorable bust-up with Guardiola followed, before Ibrahimovic was ultimately sent out on loan to AC Milan after just 1 year.
Ibrahim Afellay. Back in 2010, there were few young wingers who could generate excitement quite like Ibrahim Afellay. Almost certainly destined for greatness, the Dutchman sealed a €3 million move to Barcelona, but that's about as good as it got for him. For reasons unknown, Afellay simply couldn't force his way into the Barcelona side, and a number of injuries, including a serious ACL tear, prevented him from building up any momentum. Loans with Schalke and Olympiacos followed, but Barcelona had already seen enough of Afellay. They released him in 2015, allowing him to seal a move to Stoke City, a real fall from grace. Alex Song. Nothing about Alex Song's £15 million move from Arsenal to Barcelona made sense in 2012, and it makes even less sense looking back on it today. Signed as a versatile midfielder who could fill in at centre-back, it quickly became apparent that Song wasn't good enough in either position, and his lack of mobility and vision often dragged the rest of his teammates down as well. Unfortunately, he is remembered more for a video of Barcelona's 2013 La Liga triumph, in which he thought he had been specifically chosen by captain Carles Puyol to lift the trophy only to be brutally dismissed. D in favor of the legendary Eric Abidal. Douglas Santos. Douglas was signed from Sao Paulo in the summer of 2014, with 8 appearances for the club in all competitions. The €4 million spent on securing his signature has been a total waste. After pursuing all summer for the signature of Colombia's brilliant right-back and one of the star performers at the World Cup Juan Cuadrado, on the 26th of August, Barcelona announced the signing of Douglas. Douglas who? Yes, that was the reaction of every Cule who heard the news. There were no signs of him turning into a player who would one day play for a top European club. Not even the regular followers and die-hard fans of Sao Paulo could believe Blaugrana's interest in their unremarkable right-back. On his debut for the club in La Rosaleda against the Andalusians Malaga, his performance proved those reports from Brazil were not wrong after all. Douglas had a pretty much forgettable night on the pitch. He was poor in offense and extremely clumsy in defense. He has gone out on 3 loan spells: 2016 Sporting Gijon, 2017 Benfica and 2018 Sivasspor. Barcelona's signing of Douglas raised lots of questions. Arda Turan. Arda Turan's €34 million move from Atletico Madrid in 2015 could have hardly got off to a worse start. The Blaugrana were in the midst of a transfer ban, so Turan was not allowed to play for the club until January 2016. Was he worth the wait? Not exactly. He was billed as the replacement for a declining Andres Iniesta, but the Spaniard decided he wasn't ready to lie down just yet and actually outperformed Turan with ease. Imagine being replaced by the player you're supposed to be replacing in the first place. He's still on the books at Camp Nou, but is out on a long-term loan with Istanbul Başakşehir, where he made his name by pushing an assistant referee and being hit with a huge ban. Something tells me his time at Barcelona is probably over. André Gomes. After realizing Turan was not the man to replace Iniesta, Barcelona turned to Valencia playmaker André Gomes, shelling out around €35 million to bring him to Camp Nou in 2016. Yet again, it didn't work out for the Portugal international, who was voted by marca readers as the worst signing of the season. In Gomes' defense, he didn't get too much time to prove himself, and he was even used as a right-back on occasion. He managed 2 seasons at the club, before joining Everton on loan in the summer of 2018. He looked a completely different player at Goodison Park, and was recently rewarded with a permanent move. Philippe Coutinho. When you're signed for around €142 million, you're supposed to deliver time and time again. Unfortunately for Philippe Coutinho, that just didn't happen following his move from Liverpool in 2018. He managed 21 goals in 76 appearances, before being offloaded to Bayern Munich on loan with a view to a permanent move. The Brazilian instantly looked a shadow of his former self at Camp Nou, and regularly attracted the criticism of fans who felt he was only getting into the team just because of his high price tag.